or from wherever.
Right.
Come to work. Like nothing.
Yeah.
The cost of the plane ticket.
Pretty much.
The money's going out of profit.
Are you sure? Yeah. Okay. That might work.
What was the issue with the original April 9th budget? Like, was it that not only was it the non-refundable bit, like they had to, okay, math is not my thing, but they slashed the credit. No, I want to know. I'm curious, but there's an issue with a tax. Was it a taxable? Okay, what am I trying to articulate?
That was the bankable, non-bankable.
The bankable, non-bankable,
Yeah,
right? So,
that.
but the way that the industry is set up is that they can't even claim that because there's a the word that you wrote said.
No.
Not
Oh, they tried to work it out so it was revenue neutral.
Revenue neutral. There we go.
Yeah, but
See, so they're
I think one thing that's important to look at is we lost from 65, they brought it down to 25, and the agreement that was settled was really hardly beneficial. It was 5% more than they were looking for, and yes, they did divide money into other areas, but it was hardly completely what we were looking for. I don't entirely know whether it would be completely overturned and brought back. I think the biggest thing is looking at what happened mid-country. In Saskatchewan, the same thing happened and they cut it down from 65. I don't know exactly what they cut it to, but whatever they cut happened, the industry dropped by at least 50% in a year. And from there, if that happened in Nova Scotia, I think we're looking at...
So just so I'm clear, I can't follow all the particulars of the NS tax situation, but what the government did was, so they slashed the credits, but they also made it a non-refundable, or was it a tax refundable? How did that work?
Yeah, from my knowledge, and it's loose, obviously.
Yeah.
Like I think you called me out
we
on
all
that
got bits and pieces. We're all confused.
Yeah, we had the opening monologue.
This
Now
was a great
I'm
selection of panel, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's to my knowledge, like it would only affect people working in Nova Scotia on Nova Scotian projects. It was local people, and whatever money that the company put into it, they could get 65% of that tax back. And meaning that would just be an incentive for people to come here and film here specifically and engage people in this province in order to work. And since that's been taken away, they've lost that incentive for people to come here. You've dropped it by 40%. That means you have 40% gone from what people would see as a benefit to coming to Nova Scotia. That's why places like Vancouver and Toronto are bigger filming areas. They have that large tax incentive that people want to hop on.
Years ago, this was a big filming area.
Absolutely, yeah.
Tom Selleck was here, and and it dwindled, and and then the remains that were left, and it's dwindled even more to the point where like nobody's going to come here and film anymore, just because again there's no incentive for them to do so.
Well, no one's going to move here.
No,
I mean, in that
absolutely not.
industry, and I mean, the people in this room, exception. I mean, we're all anyone straight out of film school or a young creative type want to come just to the beautiful ocean. I
think a lot of people, when they think of this, the film credit, they think it only affects the actors, but it doesn't. It affects the economy and the local businesses and the contractors that are used.
Caterers.
It's absolutely.
Rental companies,
and not to mention
construction.
hotels. I mean, we have so many different companies coming here and filming different shows, movies. Even for Trailer Park Boys. I mean, I know a lot of people here don't enjoy Trailer Park Boys because it portrays us as, something
I love Trailer Park
other
Boys.
than
I was
what
an
we are.
extra on Take Nick to the Bad Boys.
Well, see, and that's awesome, and
But without the credit, you may not be.
but the thing is, like, it's also big in the States. And
It's a huge revenue for Nova Scotia to have Trailer Park
And the
Boys, but if we
people
lose
that-
out on that, I mean, it's not just Trailer Park Boys we're losing out on, but it's a lot
But the
of
next
things.
Trailer Park
But-
Boys may not be born because.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're
that's
losing out on a
exactly
lot of opportunity.
But if you look at the Trailer Park Boys, I think there are going to be actually some positives coming out of this, believe it or not, especially for people that are kind of people like in this room. The tax credit is generally going to affect large studios, like what the Trailer Park Boys are now. The Trailer Park Boys actually started out though as a pilot, like a very low budget black and white film. Like us, and we're in black and white right now, unless we could afford a color. I don't think we could, but they didn't have a credit and they didn't have a grant. They took matters into their own hands and produced their own show and submitted it to the Atlantic Film Festival, and it was eventually seen by somebody in Toronto who then shoved some money into it. I think a lot of actors, writers, directors in Halifax, they want a career, but they're waiting by the phone to get it. They're waiting for the Trailer Park Boys to say, hey, we've got this huge part for you. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree. And there are places like Neptune who, yes, they do hire local people, but they mostly hire people out of Toronto.
Absolutely.
So we have people coming from Toronto here. They start out in Neptune. They end up, getting into any other opportunities they have that are here while they're here.
Right.
Because there are a lot of opportunities, it's just we don't get a lot of say about them, I guess.
Yeah, a lot of times these large American films that'll come into town, first of all, they're not auditioning for anything major here. They would be foolish to come to Halifax and just pray to God that they can find their cast here.
I agree with
So
you.
they cast that film wherever they are, LA, Toronto, wherever the case may be, and they'll cast a one-liner or two here because they don't want to pay an actor from Toronto to fly in and say one line. But if you're trying to do this as a career, you really need to be proactive and create your own work. If you know an actress and a writer and a director, put them all together and create a film, submit it to the Atlantic Film Festival. That's what the Trailer Park Boys did. They didn't wait by the phone. Rob Wells wasn't waiting by the phone and got a call saying, hey, do you want to play Ricky? They created that film themselves and it turned into something big. I think without the tax credit, without these large films in town, the actors that don't move, which will be very few, but those that remain, they might have to become proactive, and that might actually help them.
There is a certain amount of engagement that could happen from that, but I think part of that perception is what's working against the tax credit. Is people don't realize that this tax credit really benefits mostly people from Nova Scotia that are working on Nova Scotian projects. It's not for the whole project to be paid off for some large American company to come here and just have an easy break for coming to Nova Scotia. It's to engage this community. I think this tax credit is mostly there to have the people from Nova Scotia work hard in their own projects rather than outside groups.
So annoying. I know, I do know some of the numbers because I've heard quite a bit about this.
You're the one educated person.
I try. But there was the part of what they did was that it was so sudden and it was mid-production season, and they switched from something that was a bankable credit to unbankable.
Right.
And I think they've gone back to bankable now, but a much smaller pot of money. Yeah. So we will have a little bit of an industry. It's just more money.
But Anne, you're somebody that creates a lot of your own work. I mean, you've been working consistently as long as I've known you, and I don't know if you, I would venture to guess, and answer this for me, if you've even ever auditioned for something that you didn't create yourself. But before you answer that question right after this. Am I the only one smiling as we go to break? Okay, you were Nick? Yeah, okay, alright.
Smiling at you, Tyler.
Right here for
How you doing, Mr. Tracy?
You do hair.
be off camera.
I know, it's I'm not gonna jump in on that. But
Is it commercial?
Yeah.
Yeah. So before we went to break, I think I asked you if you'd ever auditioned for a project before.
Had I auditioned. And I thought about it during break and realized that it's very rare. I did once go and get photographed by Egg Films to go on their roster, but I don't remember going past that. But the Trailer Park Boys extra gig actually came out of going to bike again to get my bike repaired. So that was
Wow.
and this guy was like, he really wanted to do some horror film where I'd be like running through the forest. But in the end, yeah, I got the extra gig. That's fine too.
But I mean, generally speaking, you've created your own work.
Yes,
You know.
and I moved to Nova Scotia 7 years ago and decided that I had given up music. I was done. I had been doing like the indie rock thing in Toronto for a while, and then I just made up that comedic character, Anna DeNova, for fun, like in my living room.
Right.
Feel good about myself. And then people just thought it was funny, so I did some, pilots, and I still have like a web series about Agricola Street in my back pocket, like someday,
Right.
But I guess like maybe I'll do it on a phone. I see they have the new like phone film festival now. Like
Right.
obviously we're gonna have to get frugal in how we create our initial.
Right, and I think that's going to be an advantage, because I also find with a lot of people in Halifax that are in the entertainment business, we have multiple passions. So I think if we're forced to explore those instead of just waiting by the phone and hoping that the next Jesse Stone movie is happening to looking for someone that looks like us with our character traits, if we're willing to create and feel like we're forced to create our own work, we will. And I know personally, I waited by the phone for like 6 years before I kind of understood that and said, wait a minute. Why am I waiting by the phone for someone else to create a project for me to jump onto? Why don't I just do it myself? And I think with the tax with so many big projects here, there's like a false hope with local actors that, yeah, I'm gonna get on that Jesse Stone movie, and the lead actor's gonna pull out, and they're gonna need a villain that has blonde hair, you know. That's not gonna happen. They cast those roles before they get here. If somebody drops out, like whenever I audition, I do go on IMDb and see who got the role, and it's always an American, you know. So I think if we're willing to create our own work, it might actually be an advantage, because we do have the Atlantic Film Festival where we can send our projects and get noticed that way, which the Trailer Park Boys did.
Well, it's just become more expensive with
Yeah.
the reduction in tax credit, because you got to pay all the people to, you know, lug the crap around.
Well, I mean, and not to mention, like, one thing we haven't talked about yet is all the students that are here at, like, you know, the Center for Arts and Technology that are doing film specifically
It's
for
actually Da
radio.
Vinci now, Mallory. So.
Sorry, I'm behind the time. Da Vinci, doing, doing screen arts or radio and television arts, which I did myself, and it's
Right
going
on.
to be hard because. But I mean, it's hard for them because they're just starting out, and all of a sudden, here's their career that they thought they were going to have, and bam, it's gone.
Well, what's stopping them from creating their own film?
Yeah,
Well-
right.
Why would they have
I
to?
don't
Why would they have to be
necessarily
hired on
know.
somebody
I don't
else?
think it's gone.
Stop
I worked on those Jesse Stone movies,
Right.
and I seen the abundance of cast and crew, and again, I just got a lead role on a smaller TV show that aired, and the crew was 15 people, 20 people tops. So again, you're talking about, you know, $100,000 of funding compared to, you know, $5 million of funding.
Right.
Well, exactly,
And
and
I
that's
necessarily don't think that the smaller independent
Right.
are going to
Well, I
suffer
mean,
so much.
I
didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
by the way,
no,
sorry.
I did though. I knew you were gonna jump in, so I was like, I'm gonna jump in before she can even jump in on him. But you want, like Mr. D, like I remember, like if they left, how many local on the production side I can't speak on, because I have very little knowledge of how many people may or may not be hired on that crew, but I can speak for actors. Is very few locals, and locals that are members of Picnic Face, and they created a name for themselves. They didn't hire the members of Picnic Face on Mr. D just by chance.
No.
They said, okay, we want members of Picnic Face because they have a huge following online.
they've already established
They've
themselves.
established, they established themselves, which allowed them to get hired.
Think about how they established themselves, and this is a thing too, where dovetailing with the anecdote you used earlier about the black and white Trailer Park Boys demo that just ended up in the hands of some Toronto executive,
Right.
and they got very lucky.
Yeah.
Picnic Face used a tool that's free and available to everyone, but the production was like a webcam and no microphones, and that's a very crude way to do something when you're competing against, you know, the rich kid who was given a microphone.
Yeah, but I mean, look where it got them. They got a movie out of it. Eventually.
It's
Like,
true. I'm not saying it's
the growth,
impossible,
right? Yeah.
but that's sort of the point I want to make. Is the people who want it are going to will it to happen. It just doesn't help if they just hit this ceiling where they had a little money and maybe they could hire a few extra people, maybe some people who have the talent and experience to sort of bring them to the next level.
I don't think they're getting that money right now, though. If you're not a member of a large studio and you're not a smaller member of, say, Egg Films or RPM Productions, if you're not a smaller member of that production team, if you're an independent trying to get those grants, you're usually going to get left out in the cold.
There was a
But-
slim chance to begin with, but now it's...
It was, but is it worse now, though, Mark?
Sliver.
Is it worse because now these large studios are going to probably leave town? So even though there's less money up for grabs.
Well, this is where I think we disagree, is that I think it benefits the larger studios because now it opens up the door, because they don't have, there's no incentive for them to pay people here. They can bring in their own cheap labor for the price of a plane ticket and make their films here. Yeah, still, I don't think films being made here is ever going to go away. I just think we're not going to see
On
the
an
money. I think the
independent
money's
level.
going to just go out of the province now because there's no reason for them to.
Exactly, which is why when I was talking about the students, I'm talking about they have less of an opportunity because there aren't people coming in from away that are going to pay them, you know, the big money and all of that stuff. You know, they only can do what is created here, unless they go away.
And if you look at it from the economy standpoint, you know, is it really much different shooting here than it would be in PEI or Newfoundland, places that are, you know, cheaper to do that? And that's going to weigh in, you know, big time, I think, in future decisions, you know, not only for big companies, but also independents as well.
Well, it's actually a very rare thing, this amount of production we generate in Nova Scotia compared to other places. When you mentioned like when the last audition was and stuff like that, if you're in a place like Toronto or Vancouver, it's like auditions is everything.
You do that.
But my point is,
times
she
a day.
intentionally doesn't audition.
Oh, yeah.
If she wants to do work, she'll.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, but generating our own.
Not to speak on your behalf.
No, certainly not. But
We'll get back to
I just don't like rejection.
I hear you.
Well, hold on now. I have a colleague who is an actor. He's moved here from Toronto. He's only here for a year, taking some school. And I think for the 6-7 months he's been here with an agent, he's had 2 auditions.
Right.
But coming from Toronto, it was like a weekly
I've had
daily
8
thing if he wanted to do
I've
it.
had 8 in 2 years, and it's just by word of mouth. Somebody will send me something, say, "Hey,
Yeah.
I'm trying for this."
But you're generating a lot of your own stuff just otherwise, right? And
Well,
it amasses into
Because there's
that.
just some things I see, and I just go, "Nah, I don't want to do that. That's a waste of my time. I don't care. It's not about the money. It's about the enjoyment for me."
Right.
I mean, obviously, I would would love to make a living being an actor in any capacity, but at the end of the day, I've always said if I'm not 100% into it, then it's just not worth my time doing.
And I agree with that too. And I mean, I'm an actor. I work on stage mostly right now. But there are things that I have a lot of friends who are also actors, and they have agents, and they're always waiting. And it's just like they're checking constantly to see if they have a message that's going to be the big break.
Right.
And
That's what I
that
think is a
doesn't
problem.
happen.
Right.
Generally,
It's never going to happen in Halifax.
Exactly.
Ever.
I know.
If the tax credit remained the same, it would be the same situation. Those roles are being cast in Toronto.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of the situation.
And I get a close friend of mine who is an agent, and the way that whole process works is, it's a money grab. There's 3 or 4 top people, and they're the ones that get the majority of the castings, and everybody else just gets whatever falls down.
And don't get too hung up on the tax credit was for the labor and the production.
Well, that's
cost.
it, yeah.
So there not as many opportunities are coming your way, but it's wiping out the middle tier production
That's
companies here.
stable.
But what I'm saying, Mark,
So
is
you're going to be stuck down
Yeah.
here with your webcam, or you're going to be a
Yeah.
big Hollywood studio coming in. with
But
something to
if
do.
with the tax credit gone, so let's say Mr. D is gone. I love Mr. D. I hope they don't leave. And let's say the Trailer Park Boys has
you and
to
I,
leave.
we can differ on opinions,
But blur that out. What I'm saying is, Mr. D. If Mr. D is out of the picture, and now Mark Pinio says, you know what? I've got a lot of actor friends that I met one time doing a half-circle round-table show without a table. I know how to write, I know how to direct, and how to produce. I'm going to produce my own work. And if you did produce your own work here in Halifax, chances are you're going to cast it in Halifax too.
could I get the camera people for free?
For free. You have connections.
Yeah, but I'm not going to because
Yeah,
I don't think people should work for
But
free.
again,
But
that's
I mean, you
all
could
unless
probably
you're
do it for a
unless
low
you're
budget
doing
price
everything
and then
yourself.
But also you gotta look online now. Like there's huge sites for funding for movies now. Like you don't have to just rely on a province or something. Like,
Right.
they've got like Indiegogo now where you can like, get
Yeah.
full funding. Like Super Troopers 2 just got complete funding, like
Crowdfunding.
$4.4 million.
Kung Fury is coming out May 28th.
Yeah,
but that's the
like
thing.
$2 million.
Everybody that likes Super Troopers and wants to see that,
Yeah, it's like the
and
community
I feel it's the
contributing
same
to
way
that
as what
movie.
Tyler said. Even if we have these ideas and we create, and it's not necessarily to where it needs to be. I mean, there's always going to be people that if they see your vision and they have the financial backing, they can make it to there. But it's again, I think it's the initiative of getting up off your butts and going out there and looking for work and just not sitting by a phone and paying somebody to apparently get you gigs.
Well, I'd like to see the tax credit and a bunch of people being really proactive.
that would be ideal.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
and maybe this would have been prevented if that would have been the
Right.
case.
Diana Whalen's plan all along is to motivate us and get us working hard.
God bless her.
God bless Diana Whalen.
I should have not worked.
Right.
I'm not an actor, you can't do it.
And we're back.
Unbeatable. Okay, all right.
Nick, you brought something up, how people are trying to fund films these days, taking alternate routes with, I think you mentioned off the top of your head, Indiegogo.
Yeah, well, it's such like a new thing. Like,
Right.
This is within the last 5 years, really, that this has come into existence. And I think it's remarkable that this kind of thing can happen now, where it's community funded. People just donate their money to see something work, and that's fantastic that something like that can happen.
Potato salad?
Mark,
You hear about this? The guy made like millions of dollars because he wanted to make potato salad. Like that was crowdfunding.
No.
The guy tried to crowdfund potato salad, and he got like
And it was-
like an exorbitant amount of money for it. Yeah, but I mean also movies.
who is the well-known actor that tried to fund a film recently? I can't recall his name.
Was it the dude
Which
from Firefly?
I don't know.
Yeah, there's Alan Tudyk and Nathan Fillion.
Yeah.
There was
That's a
guy-
web series.
But nevertheless,
you're right,
space
you're right.
sci-fi web series.
Yeah.
how do you guys feel about somebody who's kind of already on the inside circle, who may or may not already be quite wealthy, trying to take money from that stream where someone like Nick or
I
myself...
mean, that's what they do when they go to
I think
cocktail
it's a good
parties.
idea.
I think
on
it's
their end.
cool. I mean, like there was LeVar Burton is wanting to bring Reading Rainbow back. I mean,
Really?
hello,
But is
yeah.
LeVar
That's
Burton really on the
kinda
inside
cool.
track in terms of funding? Like,
Well, I think he did pretty well being on Star Trek and stuff like that. Like he's still well known in the
Right.
geek community at least, and him being on.
Well,
I'm
yeah, I
looking
guess
for-
they would have graduated from Reading Rainbow straight to TNG, and then.
Well, it was kind of at the same,
But
similar
the same
time.
people had a big poop over Reading Rainbow coming back.
can we say poop? Yes.
We can now. So I'm just bleeped out permanently.
Right.
Censored logos
You
all
said
over me.
dovetailing and exorbitant. I don't know.
I don't know. Spare me.
I think they should be able to have those resources, absolutely. Like, I wouldn't.
But I mean, they're already, in some cases, like, very, very wealthy in their own right.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to fund the Matt Bullen film, and now, you know, you may not have any other option other than maybe an online Indiegogo campaign,
Right.
whereas someone that's already on the inside track in Hollywood may have other opportunities for them, but they're taking that route.
Yes,
Maybe-
but because big named people are doing that, it's going to make people know that it works. It's going to make people aware
Yeah.
of the fact that it's there, so he
And,
has a
and,
better
I'd be, and I'd
chance.
be fine losing my film to a guy like Bruce Willis or something like that. Like,
Right.
I'd be totally fine.
I don't think you'd lose your film, but people might, if, everyone, especially today, only has so much money to give.
Yeah, well, that's what I meant, like $5
Yeah.
million, yeah.
Well, it's also a very contemporary way to market and fund your film at the same time. Because
Mhm.
like the joke I threw out, well, half jokingly, about going to a cocktail party. It's the same thing. You go and you suck up to investors,
Yeah.
and that's a big city like LA, New York way to play the game. But if you go crowdfunding and then it blows up like Reading Rainbow, it's
Yeah.
on all of our news feeds, it's all over
Totally.
Twitter, it's everything, and people are promoting it for free,
Yeah.
and now it's bigger than you, and you got all the millions of dollars at the same time.
Yeah,
You're
well, I
getting
think it's
paid
great
to
that
market
people
your
come
film.
on.
Generally, if you're going to invest your money with somebody, you're always going to invest it with somebody that's established and whatever, any capacity.
But isn't the purpose of
Good
Indiegogo
idea.
for somebody that's not established, that wants to get an opportunity to fund their first film?
And
Yeah.
that's the filter. If
I also
something's
feel like
good.
there's something awful that can happen with that. Like, I love that you can fund things through Indiegogo for like young aspiring people to make films, but I also feel like there must be those like actors that have this great idea for a movie that they feel like it would be great and have pitched it to a bunch of studios and it's just not catching on.
Right.
And maybe they're going to try to pitch it to their fans to try to get that movie out there. And I feel like that is very capable of happening to a
Yeah.
probably decent actor with maybe a terrible idea for a movie that should be
I'm glad you said that. 'cause
Yeah, I
I
feel
think
like
if it
the
doesn't
opposite
happen,
of
it's
it.
just a bad idea.
Yeah, if it's just a
Right.
bad idea, you're just asking people who are unaware of how bad this idea
Yeah.
might really be, and you might be
that's
really
the rub.
wasting your money on this idea.
But if you're unknown and it's good, then it is a chance to get out there.
Absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
It's so
Right.
democratic. I love
But
that.
we've all gone to a film thinking the trailer was going to make us enjoy the movie, and then
Oh, yeah.
we walked out of that movie. But like, I mean, it's,
Very disappointed,
so, I mean,
absolutely.
it does happen.
Right.
It's-
But
you know.
if you know your audience too, then you can direct it like specifically to them, and then you're more likely to get that interest in those funders to help you
Yeah.
out.
So our topics tonight on this week's episode have been the film tax credit and funding your film online. And after our final commercial break, we are going to bring a filmmaker on the set who's affected by this film tax credit and has also filmed his film online. And he's going to join this panel and give us a little chunk of 2 cents right after this.
chunk of 2 cents. Where
I-
are you from? What regional listen? Hey, welcome back to RoomTone. We're talking films and crowdfunding. And joining us now is local Nova Scotia filmmaker Tim Tracy. Hey Tim, tax credit, some changes. How does that affect you? 2 sentences or less.
Well, it's interesting asking me that because I'm gonna leave because I'm gonna yell. 'Cause you guys are fucking killing me. Gone. Be a bigger hit for other people. But definitely it's gonna change the whole infrastructure of what we have available to us as creative people. Places like the Center for Arts Tapes where we're filming this lost $10,000 to its scholarship program. Just gone.
Yeah.
Film 5 programs were frozen because they didn't know if the funds would come through. Like basically when this came in, they shut down the company that ran the film industry. They just fired everyone, closed the doors.
Right,
People
film
are
and
like-
creative industries.
Yeah, people are like,
Government.
how do I get my check?
Yeah.
How do I get a permit? People that are looking at coming here and shooting, all of a sudden it was like, oh, no one answers the phone. So they just shut it down, and those were the people that could have
So,
transitioned this whole thing.
like, how fast was it? Because the budget came out, what, like the first, second week of April?
Yeah.
And all of this has happened? And there's a studio that pulled out as well, right?
There's so
Immediately?
much, and it's hard to keep up with the changes, and we're all making work, you know, and things are happening really fast. Like, I got a call the other day, and, you know, Nelson, he's a producer here, called me, he's like, can you be out in front of your house in 10 minutes to shoot a music video? I mean, like, that's a call you don't get. Like, there's always, like, but it's like, yes, and we shot that Sex Pistols Lies video with Jack Wheaton's band, like, just really fast, and somebody edited it that night, and I mean, like, people are hustling, and
You mentioned something about how getting your first film made was really dependent on there being a thriving industry where there was like well-paid crew already in the province and you could kind of pull from that crew. How does that work?
well, the way I see it working is that basically we attract large productions from elsewhere. It's really worthwhile to hire our people because they get the tax incentive, so they get some of the money back on labor, a good chunk of the money back. That means that Nova Scotians get hired at proper rates, so it actually supports the union model, which is
Companies save money and they get the same quality of work.
yeah, and otherwise, you're just another kid on YouTube hoping for your big break. Good luck.
But it's a company like White's, which I don't know if you've worked with before, but
Yeah, I have.
so does White's leave Nova Scotia or do they stay, but now there's less people competing for that equipment? How does that?
Yeah.
Because you're a unique case. You said, all right, I've got a vision for my own film. You did the Ninja movie, which had a lot of publicity,
Yeah.
and you hustled, and you did what you beat down doors. You didn't wait for someone to call you. You made it happen yourself. Was there any help for you at all when you did that under the current settings? You shot that film last year. Were you helped? You said you had crew, but was there like a funding source, or did you have to do it on your own?
No.
So you did it on your own?
Yeah.
Well,
So
but there was a thriving industry, so they were
I
in
piggybacked,
town.
yeah.
They were in town and being paid, and then your relationships with them, you were like, hey, will you come and do this at a discount?
Yeah, they're all
So
my friends.
it helped
you know,
that
so-
there was a.
So
big
you're saying
industry
they
around.
wouldn't, your crew would not have been living in Halifax had they not been working on other
No,
productions?
and they wouldn't have been skilled.
This film tax credit, you know, has changed. Now what's your plan? I guess, like, how has it
Yeah.
personally affected you?
It really raised the profile, and there's lots of
Yeah.
other creative industries that are struggling as well. And
Mhm.
we just have to accept too that overall, it's not like we have this thriving economy and they're just like throwing money around everywhere. Like they do have other areas,
Right.
and they're struggling, and they don't understand, and you know what it takes to really make film. And now it's forced this conversation.
But I just
like
can't
the
believe
film
that-
people are talking to
I
the
just can't
government.
believe that nobody's realized just how much money that brings into the economy
Yeah,
before they went.
That's the one thing.
And
they
then,
don't
and
have the
then all
numbers,
these
and they should
MLAs
have
and
them.
everybody are putting stuff on their Facebook saying, you know, all these stats, and,
Yeah.
and all these stats are just numbers that they've accumulated. They're not taken into
Well, if we wanna-
consideration.
Yeah.
If we want to talk actual
We need
stats,
better
I
numbers.
mean, we've had conversations about this before where you're talking about, like, that one day of shooting, for example. How much did that cost you
That
in the
was-
old system?
Um,
Just like a few
my
grand.
big day.
Your big day was just like a few
I got
grand.
about a $35,000 day for about 4,000.
There's this, that's the only stat.
And that's not that's not getting the tax refund. I'm not even applying for that.
Hmm.
It's hiring crew on
So-
their day off.
Yeah.
But I got a question
And
for
they
you.
wouldn't be here, yeah.
So if it keeps going this direction in 2 years, are you gonna be able to get that same crew for that same price?
Well, even more scary for me is where do I go from here? All of a sudden, if all the producers are gone, they're my chance to get it in front of somebody, and I've never gotten one of those tax rebates. I've gotten jobs working on films where somebody got a rebate off of my labor, but there's so much more trickle down things that are sort of really up in the air, especially the small feeder organizations. Like,
Pretty much what you're saying is if the big companies stop coming in here, where does that leave you guys in terms of trying to get that exposure so you could potentially be the next, big director?
exactly.
But
And
with
it
Trailer Park
happens.
Boys, Barry Dunn is the producer that discovered them at the Atlantic Film Festival. So it wasn't like it was a Halifax producer that elevated the Trailer Park Boys. They did the exact same thing he did. They created their own work, got it out there, and it was discovered by a producer who had power.
We've got 15 seconds. Any hopeful message to end the show on a positive note, or is this?
Culture will prevail. That's my.
I think it will.
That's great. So some uplifting hope for the end. So that was episode 1 of RoomTone. Join us next week. Maybe Tim will join us next week as well. And until then, all in unison. Oh, we didn't plan what to say.
We were all ready. Yeah.
Right. This is where we all have like conversations that the music's playing and the audience can't really hear what we're saying. So, yeah.
I just got to my chair. Get up.
Start taking your shit off for the paper. I didn't get to.
Like you or you or you or you.